Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's regular council meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 13th, 2013, approximately 7 p.m. If we'd all kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mayor Cinco.
Here.
Mr. Erb.
Here.
Dr. Griesbach.
Here.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Here.
Mr. Johns.
Here.
Mrs. Allison.
Here.
Mr. Duncan.
Here.
Mr. Ramsey.
Here.
Mrs. McKinney.
Here.
Mr. Dice.
Here.
Mr. Hugus.
Here.
Mrs. Worksman.
Here.
Thank you, Sharon. Pete, if you'll come on up, and ladies and gentlemen, this is our 2012 CAFR that Pete, Cherry, Hozak, Spec Mutual Wood LLP, they're going to talk about our CAFR. If you'll give us a snapshot and any questions from council.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My name, as the mayor said, my name is Peter Bancheri. I'm the audit partner on the audit for the municipality of Monroeville. I'm just going to touch on a few points within the CAFR. But if there's any questions as I go through, please feel free to stop and we can get them answered hopefully tonight. And if not, we'll get you an answer to your question at some point in time. The CAFR is broken into three sections.
You
Yes.
might want to explain what a CAFR means for our public.
Okay.
Pete, thank you, Bruce.
Okay. The CAFR stands for a Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Okay. It's the audit report, but instead of just an audit report, it includes some additional information. It actually is broken down into three sections: an introductory section, the financial section, and then a statistical section. The statistical section includes tables of basically 10 years of information of revenues, expenditures, and other data regarding taxes and so forth. Basically, what we're going to concentrate on tonight, and what I'm going to talk about tonight, is information that's contained in the financial section. The first report you see within the financial section is on Roman numeral page 9. That's our independent auditor's report. This is where we give an opinion on the financial statements. The format you see this year is a little different than last year. There was a new governmental accounting standards board statement that we implemented, so the format looks a little different. The language is slightly different. The result is still the same, which basically states that, in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So it's a clean opinion. There's no exceptions within the opinion letter itself on your financial statements. First schedule that I wanted to briefly touch on is on page 3. This is the governmental funds balance sheet. The balance sheet's broken down, and each of the statements are broken down into major funds and non-major funds. The major funds of the municipality for 2012 was the general fund, the 2011 capital improvement fund, and then there's the other governmental funds which are the non-major funds. But just looking at the general fund, your total fund balance is broken into 4 different types, which are further described and disclosed in the notes. But your total fund balance at the end of December 31st, 2012 was $5,392,963. Also within the 2011 capital project fund, your fund balance there was almost $2.5 million. And then in the other governmental funds, which includes highway aid, police asset seizure, and some other minor capital project funds, there's about another $1.9 million in those funds. Flip over to page 8. This shows the same funds that we looked at on the previous page. But this shows the total revenues and expenditures and the changes in fund balance of those funds. A couple things to point out. In the general fund, total revenues for the year were $23,207,000. Your total expenditures were $24,649,000. So your change in fund balance was actually a decrease, meaning that you used almost $1.4 million of your fund balance, of the prior year's fund balance, to cover your expenditures this year, which is what was anticipated in your budget of using a portion of your fund balance to balance your budget in 2012. One thing to point out, just other in the other governmental funds, the municipality did do a bond refinancing during the year, and that's reflected down in the other financing source where you see the bond refund issuance of refunding bonds, $8.4 million. So that's what that information is in there. Also on that page, under capital outlay, you can see the municipality spent $3.2 million in capital outlay from its capital project funds in 2012. Okay, want to flip up to page 9. This statement is the statement of net position for fiduciary funds. This statement includes your pension, your police pension fund, and your OPEB fund. And at the end of the year, the net position in those funds, you had total assets for police pension of $31,787,000, and then money held in trust for the OPEB or the other post-employment benefits of almost $5 million, $4,977,000. We'll look in the notes there what those numbers mean and where they came from. That's sort of the last section of the financials. The notes continue on, starting on page 13, or actually page 11. Just want to touch on a couple things within the notes themselves. The notes are fairly self-explanatory. They provide additional information on the assets, liabilities, fund balance, the other revenues, basis of accounting, and other items like that. But if we want to flip up to page 29, this footnote describes the total debt that the municipality has at the end of the year. The majority of your debt are in general obligation bonds. Total outstanding debt at the end of the year is $28,730,000. And then on the next page, or the page after that, shows the detail by bond issue. And then on page 31 shows the total payments that would be due to maturity on that debt, principal and interest, totaling $33 million for the year 2026. Okay. On the bottom of page 31 describes the bond refunding that took place with the issuance of the 2012A and 12B bonds and the results of that, which basically resulted in the municipality receiving about $610,000 in additional funds for capital projects in 2012 without changing your debt service payments between the old issue and the new issue. So that was where the savings was. You took it out as a current savings and used those monies for capital projects as you go forward. On page 35 is the portion of the note regarding the pension plans. Just on the bottom of page 35, just want to point out, it shows the annual pension cost for the two plans. You have a non-uniform plan and a police pension plan. The total contributions that were required for the non-uniform were $848,000 for the year, and for the police, $1,584,000 for the year. Page 37 is the note. Starts the note on the post-employment health care plan. That's a portion of the assets that we looked at previously under the fiduciary funds. You actually have created an OPEB trust with cash in there to be paying a portion of the OPEB benefits that have come due. That footnote continues on, but if you want to flip up to page 42, this describes what the annual required contribution that was determined by the actuary would have been to contribute into the OPEB plan, which was $1,912,000. This, in 2012, the municipality did not make a contribution into the plan, so the net OPEB obligation increased by almost $1.9 million. So at the end of 2012, your OPEB obligation is $3.3 million. Okay, that's not the actuarial liability. That's just what the obligation would be if you were funding that plan on an ongoing basis. Okay.
Pay as you go? On a pay-as-you-go basis?
You're on a pay-as-you-go now, sort of, because you haven't funded that plan. Yeah. When that plan was created and the trust was created, you were funding that plan so that the payments that went into that fund would be sufficient to make the payments for OPEB, based upon the actuarial study as they came due over the next 30 or 40 years, whatever period of time that was being amortized over. So right now, yeah, you're just making the payments. You're still paying the payments out of the plan, but at some point, the assets aren't going to be sufficient to do that, to make the payments out of there if it doesn't continue to be funded. So, okay. That's sort of the end of the notes. Just one other thing to point out under the required supplementary section, this in regards to the pension funds. If you go to page 49, this does include a new actuarial report for the police pension plan. The non-uniform actuarial report wasn't available at the time we prepared the CAFR. But if you look at on page 49 shows the actuarial value of assets in the second section for the police as a 1113 and the actual accrued liability. So the actual value, I'm not going to say that word again because I know if I have trouble with R's and L's, so I'll just a minute and stop
This
there.
tongue time.
Yeah. The unfunded actuarial accrued liability at the end of, as a 1113 is $11,766,000 in the police pension plan. And you can see where it's gone over the last 6 years. It was at 7.8 million, went to 12.1 million, and now it's 11.6. So it's moving back and forth a little bit as the assets increase. The liability also is increasing a little bit too. So, and then with the non-uniform plan, you can see here it's 4.5 million. Then the same schedules there for the, on page 51 for the post-employment benefit plan. This is for the retiree health care that's been established out under the contracts, through the various contracts that the municipality has. The assets in that plan are the $5,000,001 at the top of page 51. The liability is $24,261,000. So the unfunded actuarial accrued liability there is the $19,160,000. And you can see that has come down, but that's because you put money into the plan to reduce that liability. Okay, so that sort of a summary of the statements in there. The next section does discuss the component units, which are included in your financial statement, which is the Senior Assistance Center and the Convention Visitors Bureau. So there's financial statements starting on page 56 for those two entities. And then the last section, like I said previously, is the statistical section, which provides various information over the last 10 years of data, historical information, as well as the current information.
Council, questions for Pete?
Yeah, I do have a question. I'm not sure if this is a question for you, if you have this, or if this is more for our manager, but the capital assets that we have, there's not a detailed list in the CAFR. Is that something that we have as far as capital assets being, consist primarily of land, buildings, improvements, equipment, and infrastructure the municipality owns? So they're not in here. Is that something that we, could I,
I have a spread how they're
Spreadsheet
broken
of
down.
all of them.
I'm sorry, Lois.
I can send you the spreadsheet if anybody's interested.
That'd be great if you
How
could.
they're broken down, depreciated equipment, is that what you're
Yeah,
talking about? The
what,
list?
Yeah,
what we actually
Yeah.
own, what
Yeah,
our
on
assets
page
actually
Page
are.
27 summarizes those in total. And then, if you look at page 27, that's the summary of those assets, the cost and the accumulated. And then those numbers have come from the schedule that's prepared by the municipality in detail by each asset.
And I figured this was just the summary of it, but
Right.
if you have the detailed one, if I get a
Susan,
spreadsheet,
if you'll
that
make
would be
sure
great.
all of council gets it, then via email, whatever.
The 2011 Capital Improvement Fund, how much of that is borrowed money, and how much of it is maybe from the refinancing we did in 2012? Do we have an idea of what that is?
2011 was all bond issue.
So the 2.4 million, or the 2.5 million, all of that is currently borrowed money sitting in our,
Yeah, the 2012 funds were put into a separate account and are reported separate as a separate fund within the CAFR itself, within the financial statements.
so is that money that we actually, we took possession of and is sitting someplace? Or is it money that we haven't spent yet that is potentially borrowed?
It's money that we're holding in anticipation of expenditures. The budget's been developed, and it just hasn't been spent yet.
Okay.
Any other questions for Pete?
Okay.
Obviously, a lot of information, but thank you for your time, sir.
Okay, thank
Were
you
you
very
going
much.
to go over the management letter as well? I thought you were going to go over that.
Can if you'd like.
Yeah, would you mind?
That's-
Yeah,
That's
that
why I
was-
came back, if you would, Pete.
Okay.
Thank you.
A couple points within the management letter. First one is in regards to an agreement that was created under the Park and Recreation, a facility use agreement with one of the, with some of the associations that use those fields. Some of the ambiguous language within that agreement, I think that agreement was voided at some point in time and is in the process of being recreated to make it a little clearer as to what exactly that language is. So it was just a, reiteration of a point from last year that still is being taken place.
Work in
there.
progress.
Exactly, yeah. The other point is, next point is in regards to overtime reimbursement. The municipality does participate in a reimbursement program with the U.S. Department of Justice under the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. We were comparing hours that were being billed to for the reimbursement to the DOJ compared to actual hours being charged and paid under payroll. We noted some discrepancies between the two. Our recommendation, obviously, is to make sure that you're getting, that you're asking for all the reimbursement that you're entitled to based upon the hours that are being reported on the payroll system for overtime under that
Was there
department.
more or less? So what hours were being billed weren't being billed to be reimbursed and was coming out of our fund? or-
Right.
Correct, okay, so there should be a better
Yeah.
system for that. and
Right,
making
yeah,
sure
just to
they're on.
make, yeah, exactly. And I think there was a schedule put together that reflected that. Next item was in regards to a purchase order and how that was being charged it was all being charged to one department when actually the goods were for more than one department. This was being paid out of the capital project fund. There again, we're just recommending that, for reporting purposes, if the goods are for more than one department, they'd be charged to that department on the purchase order and then also on when the invoice is being paid, so that there's proper accounting by department for any expenditures. Last item that came to our attention, there could be a weakness. It may exist in the disposal of small assets, small equipment, scrap, those types of assets, that there might not be a formal policy in place for the employees to document when assets such as any small types of equipment or scrap are disposed of, that is make sure that anything that is disposed, there's a form that's sent back to the finance office so that they can track to make sure that any funds that are due are accounted for and reported properly within the financial statements themselves.
Were there any receipts for any of that you were able to see what that figure was?
No, I mean, we're just saying there's not really a formal policy there, so without a policy, if you don't know what's being sold,
Yeah.
Unless there's a receipt that comes into the finance office, that's all we're gonna see, so. If there is any type of disposal, those types of things, there should be something formally designed so that the employees know how to report that, and account for that, so that the finance office and the office out here can track that kind of information. Okay. The next couple items deal with the component units. One is on the Senior Assistant Council, regards to segregation of duties. And I think this has been corrected within the year because there was a change in the treasurer there. Previously, during 2012, there was one person sort of controlling everything in there, and I think that has been changed. But during the year, we left it in there because it did take place during the year that we're doing the audit. And I think the same with the next item in regards to the backup of the QuickBooks files. They're making sure that they're backed up onto an off-site, QuickBooks being the software that they're using for their accounting purposes, that is backed up off-site somewhere in case something does happen to the computer that's being used on.
How off-site would that be? Would that be that's a council, that's a volunteer council, would that be in
I
their?
mean, probably just you can put it on a flash drive, it's not that big of a file, and they can just leave it in, with the director of the Senior Citizen Center within there, so.
So
some-
that's
Yeah, that's-
that's
yeah.
in order to be able to leave that with that person?
That would be fine, yeah. Yeah, just as long as it's not, if everything's just left on the laptop, obviously.
Right,
laptops
it's only-
break all the
it's
time,
only
then you
one.
go, well, I wish I backed that up.
Pete,
so-
it's been corrected, and
Yeah.
they do use the flash
Okay,
drive.
exactly, okay. Last item is in regards to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and this is in regards to purchasing card and credit cards, and a formal policy. There is one now, but it doesn't encompass the whole credit card policy issue. I think it's dealing with the travel policy now. We're just saying that when there's credit cards being used, you should make sure that there's a formal policy so everybody's abiding by the same rules and regulations. We're not saying anything was wrong, but with anything like that, there's always risk with a credit card, receipts not being retained or documented as to what the purpose of those things are for, and purchasing limits for each person too, so. just-
I'm on the liaison, I'm on the board of the CBB, and actually, you sent them a letter as well?
Yes,
It's
they
on their
received it,
agenda
yeah.
to discuss with the whole board
Okay.
on Thursday, so
Yeah,
thank
yeah, they
you
got
for
a
that.
copy of just this section related to that, so it's same with the Senior Citizen Council, so. And the last item there is just an emergency standard that's gonna change the report for next year, so we'll worry about that one.
Once again, council, any questions for Pete on our management?
Are you referring to GASB 61?
Yes, in regards to 61, and then 65, we'll talk about reporting assets and liabilities differently.
Okay.
And then 67 will really be a change for pension plans, but that's not going to be effective until, I guess it will be effective for 14, correct. That we're
2014?
We're doing,
Okay.
we'll be 13 next year, so.
Once again, any other questions or comments for Pete? Once again, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you,
you,
Mr. Mayor.
Pete.
Thank you, council, for letting us work for the municipality.
Thank you.
It's a
Thanks,
pleasure
Pete.
being able to work for the municipality.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Pete.
And I'd like to thank Sue, too, and her staff for the help they provide us during our
Very good.
process. Thank you very much.
Okay, council, moving over to the approval of the minutes, the council meeting of May 14, 2013, Citizens Night meeting of July 2nd, 2013, and the council meeting of July 9th, 2013. Any corrections or additions further? Seeing, I'm sorry,
No, I think we've had corrections presented to us, and I think they were highlighted.
anything else?
Nope.
Motion on the floor?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Roll call, Shin, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Moving over to our approval of our reports of our tax collections. Once again, council, any corrections or additions, comments? Mr. Fulkerson is, oh yeah, he's here. Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Motion we approve.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Payroll report. Any other corrections or additions, council? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Move to approve payroll?
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
And we'll move over first to our list of bills, and we will start off with you, Byron.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Nick.
No questions this evening.
Thank you. Lois.
They were covered Thursday, thank you.
Jim.
I have none, sir.
Diane.
No questions?
Steve.
No questions.
Clarence.
No questions.
Motion on the floor, council.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Moving over to budget transfers, once again, council. Any issues? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Move to approve budget transfers?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
And moving over to our vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities.
Yes,
council.
Mayor.
Please.
I would like to nominate from the Second Ward for the Zoning Hearing Board, Gary Griziak.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, I just had a question on that. It looks like Gary's also, you put him, I guess, for consideration on the Ethics Board?
His letter actually indicated interest in both boards.
Yeah, okay. And so,
He didn't recommend a preference.
And I
It is
spoke, I
choice.
spoke to Gary.
okay, all right. I didn't know which was the preferred one.
Anything, any other nominations or appointments, Nick?
None this evening.
Anybody else have any
Yes, I
nominations?
do, Mayor. I would like to nominate Linda Holleran to the Human Needs and Resources Advisory Board. She's from the 4th Ward, and they're looking for participants, and she's willing to go.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any other nominations or appointments?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to appoint Craig Koza to the Convention or Visitors Bureau.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any other appointments or nominations?
Mayor?
Oh, go ahead.
Yep. I also for Zoning Hearing Board, another nomination from the Second Ward, John Yakem for Zoning Hearing Board.
So, that's second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Is there two openings?
No, there's only
Nope,
one open.
though, this is nomination
Oh,
process.
please.
Nominate as many
Oh,
people as
okay.
you wish.
Yeah, sure. That's why I wanted to establish whether or not, because there was an ambiguous, one of them seemed ambiguous.
Any other nominations or appointments? Well, I do have an appointment, and Valerie Warning has sent a letter in to the Personnel Board, and that is certainly under the domain of the,
You have to nominate first for the personnel?
no. I did not the last time I did.
Yeah, I think that's your appointment.
That's my appointment,
Okay.
yes. So Valerie, thank you for your volunteering on our Personnel Board. We certainly look forward to your assistance. Once again, Council, any other nominations or appointments? Seeing none, we'll move over to proposals and bids. Please.
Yes, proposals received on August 5th, 2013 at 10 a.m. for our storm sewer lining project. Council has the tabulation sheet in their council packet with the low bid of Insight Pipe Contracting LP for $123,239 as the low bidder. There's some attachments for council to look at for the breakout, and Mr. Hugus can answer any questions if council has them.
I think this was fairly well discussed, but Paul, anything you want to add to that?
No, sir.
Okay.
This was the storm sewer full-length lining schedule?
I'm sorry?
This is the storm sewer lining, the lining.
Yes.
The one that we had the schedule. I only was looking through some of the locations. You know, some of them are easy to recognize, but I didn't recognize the term outfall, whether or not you're talking about something that's called outfall, as in Monroeville Road to outfall.
Yes.
What
That
is
is, that means that it ends at that's the end of the pipe. It's where the end wall is, so it just terminates at where it enters back into the
Okay,
stream.
that's what that means, okay.
Oh, very good, Paul, because hell, we thought it was a road.
Didn't think so, yeah.
We could make a road.
Shows you what I don't know.
Okay, all right. That's where it terminates.
Oh, well, learn something new every day.
That's the only question I had.
Any other questions or comments on this item before you? Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye?
Dr. Graysock?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Thank you, Lynette. Right now, we will open up to public comment on agenda items only. Agenda items only, if you would. And I would ask, please state your name, and only if you live in Monroeville. We don't need your address. And please, any comments, direct them to me, the chair, if you would.
Okay. Good evening, Linda Gatos, Monroeville. I would like to speak on the vacancies as far as the nominations that were made this evening. I feel that if you are able to serve on the board or up here as yourselves, that is a privilege. And with that, I think you should be in good standings in your community and have a reputation that could follow. And one of the nominations made tonight, I have found that this person is not paying taxes, and I don't feel that they should be worthy to be sitting on a board of the magnitude of a zoning hearing board. And I can present this, and then maybe you would like to withdraw one of the nominations, if I could please give this to you to share it with everyone.
Copies for everyone?
That's fine,
if
but
you-
I didn't make copies for everyone, but, I would just like to see if maybe, based on this information, if we could maybe have the name that was nominated, Ms. Drumheller, and second by you, Mr. Erb, maybe withdrawn due to that.
We've got a vote in September. I mean,
The appointment's
it'd give us plenty of time to
temporary,
look
give
at
you
this
time to
information and
look at it.
consider it,
Yeah,
so.
okay. I just want it out there because I just feel if you're not paying your taxes, you should not be allowed to be on a board. That's a privilege to be on there, and when you don't pay your taxes, I think you should be given that. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I will open up to public comment on agenda items only. Please sign in if you haven't, and state your name and only that you live in Monroeville, if you would.
My name is Robert Serafini, and I do live in Monroeville. I went over the ordinances which we're going to vote on tonight, and I have some questions about that, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Okay, the first ordinance, which dealt with the radios, for the police cars and so on.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harvey came up here, and he's been up here at the podium twice, and he's discussed the item, once with Chief Pasquarelli and once with himself, and he also spoke on Thursday night regarding the 95% effectiveness of the current status of the equipment we have now. 95%. That was with the antenna in Pitcairn taken care of. I don't understand, Ms. Allison come up with, she wanted to go with UHF. I don't understand, when she wanted to go with UHF and he wanted to stay with the VHF, I don't understand why we would put more money into the fact when we don't have to, when we have 90% effectiveness.
We don't have that. It's going to be
I
tested
am
on
addressing the mayor.
Mayor, it'll be tested on the 20th by Terry. And right now, the Pitcairn is currently not connected, and if that's the case, then that would be great. But Terry, who's professional,
Well,
will be
again,
advising him.
ladies and gentlemen, we asked for decorum, and let the gentleman speak, and then I can let you all.
I wasn't done, Mayor, and once I'm done,
Please
I would
address.
appreciate somebody to give me a, but when I'm done, I would appreciate that.
Bob, it's your turn.
I think respect deserves respect, and I think you should give it to the mayor as well. Anyway, Mr. Harvey did mention Terry from Motorola, and they were going to get together and that. Now, I cannot see setting money aside until such time as we do, in fact, need the money. If we need the money, that's one thing. Put it aside. You know, but why do that when we don't even have a basis for doing it yet? I mean, when we have 95% effective, as opposed to, I understand from what Mr. Harvey said last time, the VHS in the Allegheny County is not working up to our standards that we have. Now, that's just my opinion. Why do we want to change when we have something that's working?
Well, go ahead, continue now.
That was all I have on that item.
Okay, would you like?
I have a response, please.
Well, if you recall, when we had the meeting, there were some issues that the radios that we currently have under the UHF are about 20 years old. It's understanding that you cannot buy parts for those particular radios, but my understanding is you can still purchase UHF radios that will accommodate our system.
Mayor, excuse me, VHF.
Or UHF, I'm sorry.
VHF.
VHF, yeah, VHF, thank you. Bottom line is, we do have that one antenna that needs to be redone, I guess, or hooked up. We had two others that were in poor shape or not working that they were looking at. There's going to be some cost to that. And there really is going to be, and I believe, Diane, you are correct, isn't it, the 20th?
Yes.
They're going to test the whole system and give us, and this is Staley apparently, and they are some of the experts in that area, and I think Mr. Harvey and others would back me up on that. They'll tell us how good our system is, what issues we have, and what we can do. And I agree, if we can keep our current system and keep it working, I would agree that we should.
That's why I'm saying, why do we want to take money out and just on the maybe factor?
Well, again, that's a council decision to spend that, but
And-
I would recommend they not at this
And
point.
Miss Allison said something about putting on the UHF waiting list. Now, if that can be done, I don't know why we have to do that with any kind of approval of having it, or just on the maybe we can
What
get
that
it.
means is they have to apply for a license with the FCC.
Yeah, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, why can't we just apply for it? If we use it, fine. If we don't use it, we don't have to use it. I mean,
That's what was suggested.
Well, I think that's the plan, at least at this point.
okay. Well, that was my suggestion.
But I agree with you, Bob. I don't want to spend any money unless we have to.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to see any money spent or being spent when Mr. Harvey said we had a 95% efficiency if the towers are taken care of.
Mayor,
Yes.
they said they believe, and actually on the 20th, you will get an actual number
Yeah,
from
well,
Terry.
Bob, we're
He's
going to know
thinking-
more for next month. I agree with you, Diane.
He's
Yeah,
going to
but
give us,
why-
and if.
Why do it on one vote on this ordinance tonight when we're going to be doing something of a meeting later?
Well, I would agree with you.
Mayor.
Well, again, this is a councilmatic action.
Mayor, and that's why I asked for it to be tabled last month.
Well, there's money even to get where you're looking at, because things aren't covered, things were, a lot of, 3 antennas were literally fried. They're considered under acts of God, and they have to be replaced.
Right, that's correct.
The repeater that was never hooked up, it's a cost of $1,500 to hook it up, and this is to stay with the VHF. And once everything is up and functioning, he did a whole system check. We had 3 antennas that were fried, 2 antennas have to be replaced. The repeater needs to be hooked up, and to use it will be a cost of $200 a month. And that's just to get the system hopefully back to where it was before the narrow banding. This is no talk of VHF. I'm sorry, UHF. This is just to get it back up. Then he will do a test. And based on the test, if in fact it is at 95%, then great. If it's back to where it was, that's great. But he will tell us that. We're getting some assumptions here, and Terry will tell us that. If that's the case, then that's fine. No one believes in that.
What I'm saying is, if we need those few $1,000s to fix what we have, fine. But why put the $80,000 aside at the present time? As Mr. Duncan stated, why don't we just table this at the present time until such time as we do have the correct answers?
Well, and the other thing too, and I think it's very clear that the UHF and VHF coverage of let's put it this way, our coverage versus the county is at least as good, even though they're on the UHF band and we're on the VHF. I think that argument can be made every day by Staley himself. I've talked to Mr. Harvey and others. I guess it's just a matter of, let's just figure out what happens after the 20th. We're going to know. I agree with you, this should be tabled. Once again, I would think so. If we can only have to spend a few thousand, I think that's a lot better
That was
than
my
80.
recommendation tonight.
But I also think it'd be a lot more than just 80 if we move over to UHF totally. I think it'll be a lot more than that. I'm no expert in that area, but I know that's not cheap.
Okay.
Next question.
Okay, ordinance number 2 had to do with the police hiring. How many policemen do we have on our, as needed in Monroeville? I don't know.
50.
50, is that what is needed to full staff it?
That is correct.
How many do we currently have?
47.
Do we have the money in the budget to get the other 3?
Yes, we do.
Then why don't we just get them and quit BSing around?
We're in the process of doing that.
I mean, I'm saying is, for the last couple months, I've come here, the police are needed, and, every month there's something about, we hired 6 policemen, they were up here a couple months ago, that was fine, and we needed more. If we need more, get them. But I mean, if we have the money to get them, that's one thing. If we don't have the budget to get them, that's another.
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to respond to your questions since they are directed at me. As you well know, I certainly support increasing our police department. But if you remember, I've said over the last couple of months, we have a shortfall right now in our 2013 budget. I made sure, asked Mr. Fulkerson to come here because there's some discrepancy between some of the numbers I presented to council. Others feel that there's other numbers. I have Mr. Fulkerson here tonight, and we'll get into that a little later. But in regards to hiring the police, I would hope, now we just hired 1 officer yesterday and 2 today. I hope, unless this council doesn't move on this budget, I would hate to think we have to lay these young men that come off full-time jobs off because we don't take care of the budget shortfall. We do have a budget shortfall. I don't even care if my numbers were wrong. We have an issue, and I've asked this council to address it, and we have not done so to date. Now, I want to compliment Lynette, Jim, Steve, and Nick, and there were 4 residents here that certainly we had a very good discussion, no decisions were made. I realize one person did describe to me why they couldn't be here, and they had to be with the funeral, one of the council people, but all of them should have been here. We have a shortfall. Nobody chose to do that. Even if, like I said, that's where the numbers are, and that's why Mr. Fulkerson's here. But again, I want all the officers on duty, but right now, I don't even know if we're going to be able to pay all our bills, our employees that we currently have as well as our bills, until we address this shortage. And the shortage is over 600,000. Nobody wants to hear that, but Mr. Fulkerson will straighten that number out when he gets up here.
Because Thursday night, it was mentioned, in fact, about putting a freeze on hiring.
Yes.
I mean, then I heard that there were people hired. I mean, which way are we going? Do we have the money to cover it? If we have the money, I'm all for having a full complement of policemen. I mean, they do a good job here in Monroeville.
We agree.
But like I said, I don't know which way you're going here. Every time we come up to the meeting, we're going to hire somebody, we're going to freeze them. I don't know which way you're going. And I heard about the meeting. It just seems like if we're going to hire the cops, hire them. And not,
Well, Bob, I think everybody wants them hired. I guess.
yeah,
the
but I
point-
mean, if we're going to have the freeze, let's, as it was mentioned, let's let it be known that they're not going to be paid. Because as I understand it, from talking to someone, that some of these people are giving up good jobs
Absolutely. I agree with you.
to come here and get the policeman's job. And if we don't have the money to pay them in a month, they're going to be laid off. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Well, hopefully we can avoid that.
That's my second. Third, Ms. Drumheller sponsored this here, changing the ordinance, which has to do with decorum, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can understand the decorum, okay? There's been times when we have gone overboard here. But you show lack of decorum yourself when it comes to talking to the mayor. I really mean that. And it's, anybody who wants respect should give respect. And I think that's poor judgment on your part. I just wanted to comment on that. Because I can understand people wanting respect. I want respect, everybody here does. But you got to give it too. On the fourth item, the animal control vehicle. Has anybody looked at the vehicle since the Thursday meeting?
I'll be honest with you, I have not.
I tried to, but I didn't get a.
I've seen it prior to that, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but I mean, since Thursday's meeting when it was requested that we get a new one. I think someone on this committee here should have looked at and said, yeah, it needs it. If it needs it, it needs it. If it doesn't need it, don't get it. But I think someone should make a decision by looking at it before we do make a decision.
Well, if you remember Thursday's meeting, Bob, the truck is running. Yes, it is old. Yes, it has some issues, but it still works. Now, go back to what Mr. Duncan and I both stated last Thursday. Please, let's hold all our any new spending until we get the 2013 budget issue resolved. In the meantime, we can certainly look at the truck. And in the meantime, if it does go down, there's other avenues, other trucks that they can use.
That's
So
why-
it won't be, we won't have our animal control officer out
That's why I'm
there.
saying I don't think this fourth item should be voted on tonight either. I mean, if that's the case, no one's looked at it, we don't know what the condition of it is. Why should we vote on something we don't know what the hell is it?
You're singing to the choir, Bob.
But I mean, let's use a little common sense. If you're going to spend money on something that's needed. If you're going to check on something, check it. Spend a little bit of time. Do something. That's all I'm asking. Check something out before we vote the money for it and put these ordinance up here.
Agreed, Bob. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
As it relates to the police and the line item that I believe was in the budget, as evidenced by the amount of overtime that has occurred for police officers, I believe that went a long way into funding the overtime budget, and I think the overtime budget had an awful lot of money. What was the amount that we actually had budgeted for overtime, Mrs. McKinney?
Detectives overtime was $80,000.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
$80,000 for just the detective line item. And the fact of the matter is that with hiring, the way that entry-level younger cadets, coming in Monroeville is a very good job, that has really reduced the overtime to the point where I don't think that there's been about $7,000 drawn from that overtime budget as a result of the hiring practices. And so there's wisdom in avoiding the overtime, which really inflates the budget figure, and I just want to say that.
Lynette or Susan, since you brought a good point up, Liz, on the detectives, now, isn't some of that reimbursable from the county if they're working with county or?
There's nothing going on right now that's
Nothing,
reimbursable.
that's just pretty much
Not unless
our
it's the
own-
Drug
No, I
task
just
force.
needed- That's all right.
Yeah, the drug task force did have some.
Yeah, we do get some
arrangements.
reimbursement when we do things with other agencies.
Yeah, that was the one that was pointed out in the letter because
Yeah,
we
and I
didn't
wasn't
get
sure how much of
reimbursed
that
for
was
that.
there, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get reimbursed for that.
But, but one of the other issues is why, and again, council right or wrong, you all increase the minimums on all the shifts. That also creates, that was this current council that did that. That creates overtime as well. So, we need to look at everything, but I agree, we definitely need to get our officers in, but right now, we definitely need to hold our new spending, and that's my opinion. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we need to open up to the floor for any, please. Please sign in, state your name, and only that you live in Monroeville.
Dan Alexander, and I live in Monroeville. I just want to come up here. I hear there's a lot about the police radios and stuff like that. I work for People's Gas. I'm a telecommunications technician. I take care of base station mobile radios, microwave, satellite towers, the whole bit. Been doing it for over 20 years. And just a point of clarification here, I know when the chief came up and he was saying that his radios used to work great on VHF and all that, and then they had to go to the mandatory narrowbanding, same as us, same as everybody in the country. The radios went downhill. Narrowbanding won't affect the radio coverage very much. When we went, I did a complete study with the gas company, drove around, we have coverage areas from the Ohio line to Altoona to Go City down to West Virginia. And drove around, did before and after checks, and we've been narrowbanded for a year now, and there is no change in our coverage. I think it was coincidental because we don't have any kind of maintenance agreement. Nobody ever knew this, but I think that we did probably take some lightning strikes and wiped out 2 antennas, and it was probably coincidental that happened right around when they narrowbanded. And so if you ain't got antennas, your radio system is not hearing, so if you're in Lowe's on a portable, it's not going to hear you. The difference between VHF and UHF in this area is going to be pretty much comparable. VHF is great for like urban areas. The radio waves will actually propagate around hillsides and things like that a little bit. The lower you go in frequency, the more bending you'll get. UHF is good for city areas, like the city of Pittsburgh. That's one of the reasons why they're on UHF. They used to be on VHF, at least with their fire department. It's good. It's more reflective. It'll bounce signals off of buildings more than VHF will, so it's good for that kind of environment. In this area, I do feel that if we get the 2 antennas fixed and put Pitcairn online, their coverage will be as good, if not better, than it was before all the narrowbanding. I think just nobody bothered to look at the base stations and the antennas until now, and that's why we had such bad coverage. As far as the mobiles go, I did a little research asking some people in that, and they have what's called Motorola Spectra radios, which are good, really good Motorola radios. But they are 20 years old, and they are not maintained by Motorola anymore. You can probably get some parts from side vendors, but they do need replaced. My suggestion, because of the budget and stuff like that, is you don't have to do it all at once. Unless you plan to go to UHF, and I honestly don't see a reason for it, if you stay with VHF, you don't have to change them all out at one time. The Astro radios, the Spectra radios, will work in the same frequencies, narrow banded already, as some new radios you buy. So you can do maybe 10 or 15 radios and phase them in over a couple of years, spreading the budget out. And the nice part about that is the radios you take out are still functional. So if a radio in one of the police cruisers breaks, it still has the old one, you got a bank of spares now, you can just pop it out, pop another one in. So this should keep you going for a couple of years until we can get the budget mess fixed there. So I just wanted to throw that out, just a little clarification on things. So.
Thank you, Dan. Very enlightening. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it up to you. This is your time on agenda items only. Seeing none, we'll move over to new business. And 13-3-C, Gateway School District, Harvest Bible Chapel. If the applicants will please come on up.
Yeah, let me make a little statement. Under the MPC, this is the time for a public hearing. there's been an advertisement for this matter pursuant to Paul's ad. Under the MPC, there's actually a requirement of a public hearing. So this is the date and time set for that public hearing. The applicant can come forward, and then you open it up to the public if anybody else wants to make comments.
So gentlemen, if you'll please come on up. And as Mr. Dice stated, this is now, we'll open up the public meeting, and would anybody like to address this issue? Maybe we should have them talk a little bit about their
Yeah,
issue.
I think that the applicant should present the project.
So Paul or whoever, if you would, please. Please both state your name for the record.
My name is Jeremiah Canfield, and I'm the pastor of Harvest Bible Chapel.
My name is Paul Schott. I'm business manager for Gateway School District.
Gentlemen.
We asked permission a while back to use Gateway Middle School for hold services on Sunday morning, and we went through what they asked us to do, and we were approved, I believe it was in the end of June, to hold services on Sunday morning. And from 10 to 11:30, we get there a couple hours early to set up and be done probably around 12 or 1 time we tore down everything. Everything would be done in the building, so there would not be any sound issues for outside or anything. And I think we cleared the planning commissioning last month, and they agreed that there was no traffic or any issue with what we were trying to do.
And it said the planning commission recommends approval with conditions.
And the conditions were here, and the conditions were totally fine. One of the conditions was making sure we weren't interfering with any activities that were going on at the school, and we cleared that with
Yeah, I knew that
them.
was one of the issues. I think it was midget football.
Right, and that is held at Gateway High School, so we're not, any issues taking place with us on that.
Paul, anything you'd like to add to that?
Just add that we have ensured that there are no other conflicting entities utilizing Gateway Middle School during that time period. And if any other entities are interested in using these facilities, that would not occur until after the time the Harvest is utilizing our facilities at a particular point in time. So again, we're being very conscious of that effort, so to make sure there's no traffic issues around Gateway Middle School.
Council, any questions for either gentleman?
I just
Before
wonder,
I turn to the public?
just a minor one really, and that was that I would imagine you're going on a certain interval to revisit and monitor the, whether or not anything falls out because of that. Not that there would be, but are you monitoring that as well?
We will also keep an eye on that as well.
It's a one-year agreement at this point, am I correct, gentlemen?
They've actually said 3 months to start with, and then
3
they're going to
months? Okay,
see,
I
so
wasn't- I
they're
thought
going to,
there
we're going to
was
revisit after 3 months, and if there's any issues, then, we want to be totally compliable to what they want, so.
Council, any other?
Mayor, can I add one thing?
Sure.
Mr. Shaw had provided us with a letter, basically paraphrasing what we just said about the conflict with the Gateway Midget Football.
Would you like to read it into the record if you would, sir?
If you will. Okay. Municipality of Monroeville, as previously stated in my letter to you dated July 18, 2013, the clerical error that I discovered on the school board resolution previously approved at the March 27, 2013 regular school board meeting was reapproved with the correct location by the school board at a special school board meeting held on August 6, 2013. Thus, the Gateway Midget Football and Cheerleading Association will not be holding any of their football practices or games on the grounds of the Gateway Middle School during the 2013-14 fiscal year. The football practices will be held at the Mosside Middle School on the maintenance field and on the back field. The football games will be held in the Gateway High School Stadium. There is no conflict with the Harvest Bible Chapel's utilization of the auditorium and the classrooms at the Gateway Middle School with the Gateway Midget Football and Cheerleading Association or any other organizations for the non-denominational church services. If you need any additional information from the district prior to the scheduling of Monroeville Council meeting on August 13, please contact me, Mr. Paul Schott.
Any questions further, council, or comments before I go to the public? Seeing none, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, this is your time to have any questions on this issue before council. Seeing none, then I will now close the public portion of this meeting and ask for a motion on the floor.
Move to approve the resolution as stated.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. John?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Good luck, gentlemen. Have a good evening. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And now we'll move over to resolutions, and Lynette, if you would, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The first resolution is a resolution for the disposition of records as set forth in the Municipal Records Manual. As we discussed on Thursday evening, this was due to our cleanup day that happened July 19th. This is our standard operating procedure and items from the tax office.
Motion on the floor.
Move to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Lynette.
The second resolution is a resolution authorizing a license agreement for a municipal information center in Space 231A at the Monroeville Mall. As we discussed on Thursday evening, this was the old police station, substation that was being used. We are going to make some changes there and make it a municipal information center that will be used for the senior center, library, convention visitors bureau, the police department, and any other department, Parks and Recreation, any other department that would want to put information for the general public.
Motion on the floor.
And
Motion
just
to approve.
add, there's no cost to the municipality. So.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions or comments?
And to clarify, Mrs. McKinney, this will not affect our police presence at the mall whatsoever?
Not at all.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions or comments, council? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Lynette, if you would.
The third resolution is a resolution approving a severance agreement for and general release for a municipal employee. The agreement is not attached as of yet. We have not received it back from the other party, but we are going to ask that you approve the resolution or give it consideration with the agreement that the manager's office and the legal counsel will approve that once it's received.
Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
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 Questions or comments on this item before you, council? Seeing none, roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Lynette, if you would, please.
The fourth resolution is a resolution approving a license agreement between Tara Gabrielson and the municipality of Monroeville for slope reconstruction on Dawkins Drive.
Motion on the floor,
Motion to
council.
approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments on this item before you, council?
Mr. Mayor,
If you would.
I've really thought about this in light of some recent conversations that were offline. There were some questions that were brought up because this would be something that maybe for the first time would require a license agreement, and therefore it was a little unusual or a set of precedents or, something like that had never existed before. And I can understand why something may not have originally been up, but it troubles me that anything that would represent an agreement between the municipality, regardless of the property, the right-of-way, the fact that our equipment and our personnel would be working and in agreement on a private property, I don't think that it's a wise decision to do this, and I wanted to say that publicly.
If I may comment,
I'm just going to open up any other questions.
we're not on private property. It's on our right-of-way. The work will be done from our right-of-way, and our approachment is our right-of-way.
And I know that you and
I mean, you can look in the worksheet here, and you can see where the property line is
have.
and where our right-of-way, and we're doing all the work within our right-of-way. And yes, this is unprecedented.
Why do you need the agreement if it's on a right?
I have no idea why we
That's
need
where I'm
the agreement.
confused, that's what I'm.
The
That's
resolution.
why I said that this is unprecedented. I've worked for Monroeville for many years, and I've never seen this. I question, is it because it's in my ward?
I don't know. My question, in fact, I think that you understand, based on our conversation,
I do not understand.
that if I was, let's say, you're 200 Scott Drive, okay, and there's something that physically makes a municipal worker bring their time, which is, money, and their piece of equipment, and regardless of how much
We're doing this
right-of-way there
to
is.
save the road.
Okay, I was trying to make a point here.
Okay.
And I'm trying to be respectful. And that is that if there is something that is an agreement between doing work that affects the private property and even the liability of something that were to happen during the time that took place, that introduces problems. And that's the way that I see this. I see that there is a license agreement between private property and the municipality. The municipality brings the equipment, the worker, and anything that could happen with those two things. And even under agreement, doing work for a private entity. And that's the way that I see this. Now, if I've totally misunderstood it, I've at least tried to look through it and tried to make sense of it, and that's what I come away with.
I don't understand exactly what
I think the license.
your issue is.
I have a question. In all your years of working with the municipality, you're going to tell me this is the first time something like this has ever happened? I don't mean the licensing agreement, I mean
We've done, I can't even put a number on it, hundreds and thousands of jobs.
Now, I have one more question. Who come up with the licensing agreement? Where'd that come from?
The license agreement is a sample agreement that I received from Mr. Dice's office from past projects. It's a standard agreement. I just go in and make the necessary changes for that particular project. But the original language in the agreement came from Mr. Dice.
So to clarify, I think we have two different things happening here. The license agreement we've done before, and that's really to hold, it's for a liability issue, so something would happen. We have the residents sign off on it. I think maybe what's the question is that we haven't done before is that it's been in a resolution form. Am I understanding that right?
And I can address that issue. When this was presented to me, my signature is required on it. And basically, anytime I enter into an agreement, I would prefer that council approves it via resolution, that we're entering into an agreement with the property owner via resolution to approve the license agreement. So this was my call, that I wanted it done as a resolution to be presented to council.
And I understand, I'm sorry, I just want to follow up on the question that I had.
As long as I'm manager, we have license agreements, I don't care what ward it's in,
And that's
getting
your
them done by
prerogative.
resolution.
And that's your prerogative.
I guess my question.
That way, council makes the approval. So no one on staff,
Can you allow them to,
no one on staff would be responsible for agreeing to make this is a council decision.
My question, I didn't get to finish with Mr. Hugo. So the license agreements, we've done these before, is that correct? License agreements for certain situations?
Yes, we have.
If you go
Okay,
out and-
that's the question. The resolution is the new thing, and yes, that's the manager's
That's the part I
prerogative to
was
do it that way.
misunderstanding.
But the license agreements we
The
have done
license
for
agreements
liability
have been
purposes.
executed on prior projects,
With private property owners and the municipality.
absolutely.
Okay, exactly the same like this. It's just not been
As a
done in
matter of fact,
resolution form?
this language came from the Harvard Road landslide, is the last project that was done on. And there was two property owners, the municipality executed those license agreements, the Public Works Department repaired the damage that was caused by municipal stormwater. Those agreements were executed by then manager Bond, but it did not go in front of council. The only thing that went in front of council was to have Garvin Barbico, our geotechnical engineer, prepare a geotechnical report for how to fix the problem. That's the only thing that was voted on by council. The actual license agreement between the two property owners was not.
If I may, one of the things that the resolution does is memorialize the action and that council agrees to it. One of the reasons that we had the situation that we had in Taylor Street and why we were responsible for it is because over the years, we have, as a municipality, taken it upon ourselves to do things like pave private roads without having councilmanic action. And then what ends up happening is, by virtue of the fact that we continue to take care of those roads, we become responsible for caring for those roads through past practice. And Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but Taylor Street was not a street that we owned. We did a bunch of work on it back in the 90s, and we continue to do work on it because we now have safety issues with residents there.
Well, no, Taylor Street was adopted by ordinance.
Was it adopted by ordinance,
It was adopted
finally?
by ordinance. The problem was that there was no right-of-way established with the ordinance.
Okay.
That was the issue in hand.
can I clarify this project? The
I'm not-
the project is on Dawkins Road for the residents. There's a bend on Dawkins Road. There's currently a railroad tie wall at the bend. The water from Dawkins comes over the curb. Right next to it is a catch basin that is ours. When I say ours, the municipalities. It's failed. That's on the list to be relined. The water jumps over the curb. It's very obvious. Washed out a section of this railroad tie wall. Now, the wall's in danger of collapsing. The wall would collapse, the material would go away, we'd lose a portion of Dawkins Road.
The wall is owned by?
The wall is in our right-of-way, I guess owned by the property owner. It's it's to the point where it's ready to collapse.
Because of the water situation.
Because of the situation. I Intel would like to see us come take the homeowners in agreement, take the wall out, just pull it up, slope the ground. It would be like shelved, and it would reinforce the road base. Raise the curb so the water doesn't come over.
Did the property owner address somebody, or was this presented to them? I mean, because, if
They
my wall's
called
falling
me,
in.
what can we do? But our road caused the issue.
Okay.
And it's all within our right-of-way, and the work would be done from the road.
So our
Within
road-
our right-of-way.
Our road caused their wall to,
Our lack of curb and all the water that accumulates at the bend there, and our collapsed catch basin, collapsed line, which is on to be relined, caused the problem.
And Mr. Duncan, your estimate on how long, or how much labor this would take, how
If
long?
it would take a day and a half, I'd be surprised. I mean, like I say, it entails pulling the wall up, trucking it away, just sloping the ground, and we're out of there.
Mr. Hugus, I mean, we clearly had a situation in Old Ramsey where we just lost a road because of water problems, and would you say that this solution will solve the problem that's at hand?
Yeah, because you're taking part of the equation out of it, because you're eliminating the wall, taking it out. You're not rebuilding it, you're not putting it back, you're just removing it, sloping the land, reinforcing the road. So you're taking it out of the equation.
And so you think that wall is part of the would be part of the problem on Dawkins Road?
Yeah, I
Or
mean.
Dawkins Drive,
I mean,
rather.
part of the problem is when it's installed, it's a problem. It could create a problem, a future problem. If you just remove it, slope the land, you don't have the problem of the wall anymore. But still, you're reinforcing the road, so there's no structural problems with the road.
And this is not the Great Wall of China. I mean, this wall is like 10 foot long by 5 foot high. I mean, come on, guys.
And all I'm saying is the only reason for the licensing agreement, again, Steve, I wasn't saying anything about the project itself. I was simply saying that having this agreement allows us to memorialize it, that we made that decision. Whether I was correct about Taylor Street or not, there has been plenty of work that has been done throughout the years on private property for private owners to the benefit of private owners without councilmanic action, so.
Any other questions or comments
yeah, I have
on
a
this
comment.
item?
I look at, I mean, when I first started on council, we couldn't refer back to anything, and people would say it happened, or what have you. When you do something like this, it's clean, it's able to be accessible to people, so they can see what's done and to follow, and we've attempted to do a lot of that, so I agree with the fact that, of the way it's done. If this is something that's a procedure that we do, to have it so we can actually have, some protocol to follow, I agree with it as well, so I think it's a good idea. Just like we have a lot of unwritten rules, the mayor brought up, you were talking about shift minimums that were not increased, they were just an unwritten rule put into writing. And I think so you're able to refer to it and to be able to see what it contains, and not just, they said this happened for years, this has been going on forever.
Well-
We're actually putting things in writing, and I think it's a good idea to do it
And
that way.
I somewhat agree, but it would entail every project that Public Works does would have to fall on a month. It would have to wait a month, and we have one council meeting a month. So every project, I'm going to put a storm sewer in, a collapsed storm sewer, we'd have to wait a month, until we could bring it to council.
About how many do they do?
God knows. I mean,
You think there's a lot of projects like this?
every day there's projects similar to this, where we work along, or
Where you
we
would
have
need a
right-of-ways.
license agreement?
90% of our storm sewer systems run between right-of-ways.
Why was this one referred to a license agreement then?
I have no clue why this was referred
That was my
to a
question.
license agreement.
I mean, if we do
It's
these
unprecedented.
projects all the time, I mean,
Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, do we do projects all the time?
The license agreement was generated because there's a potential that the work could go outside of the right-of-way. And the house is downhill from the work itself.
I think when
So it was
Councilman
just- it
Duncan
was-
is referring to projects that are done all the time, they're definitely done within our right-of-way. This was done because it could possibly cross onto private property?
Correct.
Okay, I thought that was my understanding of why this was
In
done.
protection for the municipality, if it does occur, and does damage anything down.
I did
the
explain
hill.
that it is on a slope, and if a boulder would get away or a rock or something and roll down the slope and possibly, I don't know, bang off the house or
So
something, that's why I
It
was
was
in
my intent to
agreement.
prepare the license agreement to protect the municipality.
And I concur. I think it's the best process that we use.
I'm fine with it.
Any other questions or comments, council? Motion- Oh, we did already do the motion in a second.
Yes.
Roll call, Sharon, please. Lost my place.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you.
Mr. Dice.
Yes, the first ordinance is an ordinance to provide for an amendment of the 2008-2010 capital improvement budget.
Lynette, if you would explain once again.
This is money that was left over from our 2008-2010 capital improvement projects. We are asking for allocation of $60,000 to the police mobile radios, $25,000 for our fob system, $30,000 for our UPS system, $80,000 for a new phone system for the municipal building, and $30,000 towards computer purchases, which would be for our senior center.
Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Wait, I think we have to
Second.
take it off the table.
Question?
Yeah, oh, yeah, we
need to
need to.
take it off the table.
Yeah,
It's
point
on
of
the
order,
table.
yeah. Motion to remove from the table.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr.
Aye.
Ramsey?
I have a question.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. This is just to take it off.
Take it off the table.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Ramsey?
I know what we're doing.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Okay, now, motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Questions or comments? Steve, you had some.
Yes. I personally would like to see this tabled again because of the funds. We did not get any quotes in for the radios. To my knowledge, we haven't had any quotes completed for the fob system of $25,000, the UPS system, $80,000 for the phone system. I haven't seen any quotes on that.
Well, normally, Councilman Duncan, we get the money approved and allocated, and then we go out for bids and proposals or quotes or
Well,
If it comes in less, you would have the extra money to
extra money
reallocate
if it comes
somewhere
in
else.
more. than
that's
we
why I
would-
asked that it be tabled, that possibly we could have gotten some of these quotes and we could have seen real figures.
Well-
Now I'm going to ask again that we table it. And another thing, this money, if these items are needed, I'm fine with it. But as Mr. Erb mentioned, we currently have a road that collapsed in Monroeville, and now it's closed, Old Ramsey Road. In the mid-'90s, we invested roughly $800,000 in that road. And in the early '90s, that was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money, but $800,000 into a road that just collapsed on us last week. Now the road's closed. If you're a resident in that area, you're going to be very upset that we're going to purchase phones and radios when the roads collapse.
And
Mr.
before
Duncan,
you-
are you
be-
making a motion to table?
But he has had a comment on this, and
But my
before you had
explanation-
a second,
And that money can be used to repair that road.
and before you had a consideration of a second, since you've commented, I want to remind you whether or not, because we were all here Thursday discussing how the phone, which is already blinking,
And I understand.
affects, how that turns off and affects the dispatch system when that goes down. And to not have at least allocated something that you can look into and taking the chance that closes that
I'm fine with
communication.
that.
You're fine with that?
If we need those phones to keep the 911 center in this building up and running, do we know it's going to be $80,000 for phones?
Regardless
That
of
was
what
my
it
question.
is, the risk of not looking into
I
that
agree with looking in.
is,
That's
no,
why I
it's
tabled it. I
real.
wish we would have had an amount, hey, Steve.
When you bid anything
60,000.
out, you get an amount, and then you go to bid. I mean, you do that for every project, you do that for
But
any...
an estimate.
That's. you
We don't
get
have
it.
any
Well, how do you get an
I- I
estimate on
think that's
all
where
the
we came
capital
up with the number.
improvement?
Where did we come up with these numbers?
We kind of gotten ballparks from several different salespersons that have
It
come in.
was never explained.
Yeah, we'd like to see those, maybe if we get those in print
Yeah, I
as
mean,
far as the.
could we as council see these?
Once again, Steve, are you requesting a tabling?
I would like to request a tabling.
Is there a second?
Second.
That supersedes the other, am I correct, Mr.
There's no
Dice?
more discussion.
No
You
more
have to vote.
discussion. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
No.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
No.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
No.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
No.
Like it always is. There's a motion and a second to approve this. Do we have to do?
I just-
Roll call. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
I'm sorry, this is for,
Voting to approve this amendment, the first ordinance.
For the capital improvements.
no.
No. Mr. Ramsey, I'm sorry. didn't
Oh, I'm
you-
sorry.
He said aye.
I said aye.
Mr. Duncan?
No.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
No.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Next, Mr. Dice.
An ordinance to provide for an amendment of the 2013 general fund budget.
Once again, if you'll, before I go for a motion in a second, Lynette, if you'll give a brief explanation.
This is money that we talked about, $5,000 from patrol salaries from the assistant chief to the police hiring costs, and $10,000 from detective overtime to police hiring costs. This is to cover basically the hiring costs of our new officers, from their medical testing to their background investigations to their uniform costs, and it was not budgeted for, so we are actually scrambling to get it from different areas.
Motion to, on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second?
questions or comments on this item?
Question, have these officers already been hired officially?
Yes,
They're already hired?
yes.
And, okay, like there's a,
Yes, they've already gone through their physicals, their background investigations. Background investigations happen with every person on the eligibility list, so
Well-
yes.
what was the effective date of the hiring? Like, what was the official date?
Well, you swore in 5 officers back at the May meeting, I believe it was, and,
So these are, okay, so we're talking about the 5 that were already hired.
right, and then 4 new ones were hired. One, I believe, June 24th, and then 3 started on Monday.
I thought it was 1 and 2.
3 started on
But the
Monday.
point is, they've already been hired. It's not, we're not
Correct.
talking about this point forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments, council? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
No.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Mr. Dice.
Yes, the next ordinance is an ordinance amending ordinance number 2558, 2482, and 1833, and incorporating ordinance number 2097 and 2226 regarding the rules governing the functions of council of the municipality of Monroeville and committees thereof.
I think we had a little earlier discussion on that, so motion on the floor.
Move to approve the ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
No.
Dr. Griesbach?
No.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
No.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Motion fails. Mr. Dice.
The last ordinance is an ordinance to provide for an amendment to the 2011-2013 capital improvement budget.
Lynette, since Mr. Adams is not here, if you'll give a brief description before I go to
This
the
is
motion and second.
request from our Public Works Department to purchase a new animal control officer vehicle. The ordinance basically describes the transfer of various amounts from items that the money was remaining from after purchase, and then $35,000 from windows to purchase the animal control truck. I've also attached a email from Superintendent Adams indicating his expression that we're in need of purchasing the vehicle.
Motion to deny.
Is there a second?
I second.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I think that in this particular case, what we have is a situation, we have to make a policy decision. One of the points on from your meeting last night is something that I've raised over and over again, and that's the possibility of privatizing this as a mechanism. Plum pays less than $5,000 a year with the privatized animal control. I think it's a policy decision, either of this council or the next council, whether or not we have animal control. If we're going to continue to have animal control, this is probably a prudent expenditure. But if we choose not to, and right now that's up in the air, I think that it's a waste of money, even to allocate it at this point. So that's why I'm recommending a no vote.
That's also why I seconded, because I agree to the fact that, if nothing else, we need to take a hard look at that truck and find out where we're going to go with this whole situation before we go out and spend another $51,000.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I was okay with purchasing the truck. The big issue was the windows here at this building. And I actually had a slide presentation to show you all the damage throughout the building, but I guess there's no need for me to show that.
Still do
now.
that.
Joe, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Could you roll those, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Now, these are pictures of all the leaking portions of this multi-million-dollar building that we had $35,000 set aside to, go ahead, click on, Joe.
He did.
You could keep rolling them, Joe. Keep going. Keep going. Keep her going, Joe. Hold there a second, Joe. This is our main entrance to our police department. Is that a disgrace? Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Joe. Missing tiles, leakage. Go ahead. Go ahead, Joe. That's nice. Now, there's mold actually growing behind these panels. If you pop the panels out, you can almost see where there's... We've had this looked at before, and they actually treated it. So I can't really say there's mold up there now. It sure looks like it, because I didn't have a step ladder to actually pull the panels and take a look. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. And this is throughout this building. Go ahead. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. You could just finish them out, Joe.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. And that was my main complaint, was $35,000 that was allotted for this building to find these leaks and take care of them once and for all. As far as, you know, the leftover money and the capitals to put towards the truck, I didn't have an issue with. But that particular one I did. That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments on this?
Yes, please.
Well, no, my only comment would be, would you be considering any way of amending what's being considered, rather than taken as a whole? You'd have to consider all these items. Are you thinking of just one item then?
Well, that was my main concern of this whole, you know,
There's been a motion tonight.
to get to the 51,000. That's all
No,
I'm saying.
I'm just trying to get where he...
I mean, are you asking me, did I have an issue with the leftover money from the Packer going towards the truck?
No, the ordinance that we're considering voting on, I'm just wondering if you have any designs to change the nature of the ordinance so that it is just relevant to the windows and not the...
It's in the, $35,000 is currently in the capital improvement budget. We were going to eliminate that and put it towards this truck, and I was not in favor of that.
May I say, I think the issue's getting confused here. Steve, what she's saying is, do you want to just break that out when there's separately and still support buying the truck for the animal control?
I think there was a...
The real motion to deny, shouldn't we find out whether we're going to deny it before we go?
But I still wanted to get everybody to...
I think there was a motion to deny. We should see where that goes.
Yeah, and then The photos are definitely eye-opening, and I agree with Mr. Duncan as far as, that's something we definitely need to look into, a multi-million-dollar building. As far as Mr. Erb's comments, he's absolutely right as well. It's something we need to really see where our budget is for 2014. And furthermore, for 2013, there are some issues where, and this goes back even to the previous ordinance we voted on, as far as money in our capital budget. I had this question from some residents, actually, and need to clarify that we have our budget, and then we have which is our general operating expenses throughout the year, and then our capital budget, which is bigger projects, more expensive projects, maybe long-term projects, furnaces, roofs, things like that. I mean,
Vehicles.
exactly. It's a very large list, and they're big ticket items. My concern with any kind of spending out of that capital improvement budget at this point, this deep into the year, with our potential budget shortfall for this year, is that we should, I think, be prudent to reserve some of this money in the event something does happen where we really need to take care of it. There is the road on Old Ramsey Road, which is collapsing, which has been brought up. That certainly, money could be allocated towards that, and certainly there could be other unforeseen issues that perhaps may come up. So that's why I think it's prudent to really hold off on our spending, whether it's regular budget or our capital budget.
As it relates to the previous thing that we voted on, when we're allocating money so that we could go out and get specific quotes on it, there's nothing being spent. It's just being reallocated for a line item. It's an accounting shell game.
And as long as we get all the bids, and I know we will, get all the bids and all the quotes and everything specific, so we can then revisit these issues down the road.
Well, who else do we pick Karen as well for animal control?
That's correct.
Anyone else at this time? Because
Not at current time, no.
One of the recommendations I had given instead of subcontracting out was, since we provide a quality service, to offer it to surrounding municipalities. And right before that happened, right after that happened, actually Triangle Pet went out of business. So if we're right here, and if we can be the hub for possibly Trafford, Murraysville, Wilkins, and I believe Mike Adams reached out a lot, we're in contract with Triangle Pet. So you have to decide, again, which way you may want to go. Completely eliminate sub-out, or become the hub for others and get money in from it.
So
it's
it'd
one
be
way or
a source
the
of
other.
revenue.
Correct.
I think
But
that's
we currently have Pitcairn that we do it for, so just so you know that they actually, I believe we signed a contract with them.
Yeah, we approved that, I think it was late last year, I think it was the fall, I believe.
And I believe that was
Whenever
after
so
Triangle
this year.
Pet.
Well, I think if you're going to decide you might make money from this animal control truck, which is a possibility, if you're going to decide you can do that before you do it, you better make sure you can do it before you buy the truck.
And speaking of that,
Again,
we have
that's
a
a
price.
policy, it's a policy issue. Whether we outsource it, whether we outsource our service, or whether we outsource to someone else to do it for us, is irrelevant. I mean, the bottom line, it's still a policy
Well,
decision.
would it not
Lined
make
up
sense
properly.
maybe to ask Lynette, our manager, to maybe contact Plum and get how their program works? As you said, I heard it was 10,000, but maybe you're right on the 5,000 a year. And that included a monthly fee that they had to pay, and it's so much per animal.
Right, and
If you look at how much we pay here, counting salary, benefits, the truck, the gas, the building, all the different things go in, I think for a prudent decision, and it's certainly all your decision, I think you need to compare apples to apples. And I certainly think you can do that. Would you not all agree? Is it okay if Lynette gets that information from Plum?
Most
And then
definitely.
compares, what we're spending on our animal control? I think that makes sense, at least to me, but this is all your call.
And certainly Monroeville does have, we provide great services here.
Not buying the truck at the minute. That's
Right
what I
now,
thought
there's a
you were at.
motion and a second to deny.
But this is still there at time to
I
talk.
understand that. I understand that.
I have one last thing regarding this that I think is relevant to it. I know that we gave
That's fine.
the manager direction for maybe looking to Plum, but as far as our current contract with Pitcairn, could you provide us with a breakdown of
What were our revenue sources?
exactly the net, like how many animals we're seeing down there? Is it cost effective? Is that a positive thing?
Once again, I'll turn
I'd
it
like
over
to make a
Plum.
motion to table this instead of voting not to do this until maybe we get some more information.
Second,
Done
and-
other things.
Okay, no more discussion.
No more discussion. This is a motion to table, and a second was given. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
No,
Dr. Griesbach?
No.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
No.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Motion fails, and let's go for the motion on the denial.
If I may just make one statement, a vote yes is to deny, a vote no is to not deny.
That is correct.
Well, these votes are
they do get
always,
confused.
it's always
Well, no,
important
you're
on
right.
a negative vote to know what you're voting when you
If
say
you're
yes.
voting aye, you're supporting your initiative.
Right.
All right, how's that? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to mix up. How
Mr.
we're going with
Ramsey?
this? Yes means to vote for it?
Yes.
It means to
No,
vote
it's-
no,
it's-
it means to vote against the ordinance.
It's a vote to deny the ordinance.
It's a vote to deny the ordinance. That's a good way to put it.
No.
Okay, no.
Yes.
Mrs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr.
I-
Duncan?
Once again, I'm out of turn.
That's okay. Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mrs. Allison?
No.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Mrs. Drumheller?
No?
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Motion is denied.
That's the last ordinance.
All right, very good. Once again, I'll turn it over to you, the public. This is your turn to address council on any issue, and I would ask that you be respectful. If you would, please sign in, state your name, and that you just live in Monroeville. And please address your questions to me, the chair.
Hi, I'm Betsy Desmond from Monroeville. I just have a question. I've been noticing lately, now we know that one gentleman's down there at Sam's Club all the time, okay? But and God, if somebody's hurting financially and whatever, I feel bad or hungry. But I've noticed in the last couple months, young men, I want to say from the age of probably 30s to 40s, maybe mid-40s, that are standing on our street corners. Like the one guy was playing a guitar, smoking a cigarette, wanting money. Yesterday I was going to Marshall's, and it was a little after 7. Here comes a young lady walking from the Miracle Mile. I'm sure she was done with work, going towards center. And here comes this guy with blonde hair, bandana, with a sign, standing there, asking for money, hard times. Do they have to come up here and get permits, or, how do you know they're not sex offenders? I think they're coming from that little hotel across from the Miracle Mile. Because it's cheap there.
Well, I think this is a police issue. I mean, this is a matter where you have to take it to the chief and...
Well, I just wanted to know, is it an ordinance? Because I was with my friend, she had a parking ticket or something, and we were up at, what's-his-face's office. And I seen the guy that panhandles down at Sam's in there. But, so you don't have to come up here and get a permit or anything to stand on the street corner?
Not that I'm aware of, but I...
Okay, I just didn't know who to ask.
We do have loitering
Well,
ordinance,
again,
correct?
that's something that the police department...
Okay, so it's up to them to ask and to do background checks.
And there's a private
Yeah,
property versus
Just so
public
you know,
property.
Betsy, I think that this guy he's shooed out of there by the police on a regular basis.
Not that, I'm not talking about that guy. I'm
Any of
talking
those
about
guys
some
that are
other
doing
ones. Okay. Well, they're always on the street corner by Rite Aid, on the sidewalk, and we have a lot of people walking now.
You've even seen them up at Johnny.
Yeah, when you see it, call the police.
Okay. Okay, I just didn't know if they did background checks.
Well, for everybody in the audience as well as listening at home, if you do see that issue, as you heard from our solicitor, certainly call our police department. You can call the non-emergency number, and they will certainly address the issue. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is your time to
Name's Lou Smith. I live in Monroeville. I'll be very brief. The ordinance that was passed tonight about the decorum and I guess the actions of people that's been up here before council, that was approved tonight?
No.
No, it wasn't.
Denied.
Oh, it was not?
It was not.
It failed.
It failed.
Failed.
Oh, it failed? Okay. Then I won't say anything.
Thank you, Lou.
I thought that was more or less directed to me. Well, I'll tell you what I was going to do, because I think it's kind of hilarious. I never had a bridge, named after me, and certainly don't deserve it, or a highway, but I was going to ask for a resolution that you named this ordinance after me, and being as Lois was so nice to make it, toward my benefit. Thank you, Lois. If you ever need a volunteer
When
for
is your birthday, Lou?
Huh?
When is your birthday?
Pretty soon. And you know what?
39 again.
And if you ever need help in your garden, make sure you call me.
You know where it is.
Once again, ladies, I don't know where the hell that came from, but once again, ladies and gentlemen, it is your time to address council. It's always a fun day in the neighborhood. Please state your name for the record and just that you're from Monroeville.
My name is John Yakum, and I am a resident of Monroeville. Mr. Mayor, members of council, Manager McKinney, Solicitor Dice, good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to address you in council again. I am here to address additional issues pertaining to the investigation into the privacy leak. Last week, one of our fire chiefs addressed council regarding the allegation that curious young firefighters were viewing a police report regarding a rape investigation. He seemed to try to dismiss the allegation as no big deal. Back in October, this chief was quoted as saying, "Who cares about the privacy breach?" I think it is a huge deal, and I think many of us care. The chief stated that he is a fire chief and a retired Monroeville police officer. He is also a former member of this council and is currently the Democratic nominee of the 3rd Ward Council seat. I would think the chief, with his experience, should understand police procedures, the Home Rule Charter, state law, local politics, and the chain of command. The chief stated that he was present when the rape report was allegedly viewed. He is claiming that this was not actually a rape report, but the call screen. The call screen may still contain confidential information. And what he didn't say is that the fire department has no business accessing this information. He stated that the same information is broadcast over public radio. I would disagree with the chief's assessment. Frequently, sensitive information is either given to a police officer via the police car computer screens, over a secure police channel, or by telephone. You often hear a dispatcher ask a police officer to go to secure, or call here by phone, or there's information on your screen. This is to prevent sensitive information from being released to the public. Oftentimes within the CAD screen, caller names are included. I have never heard a name of a sexual assault victim transmitted over radio. One of the great differences between listening to a radio and viewing something on a computer is the ability to search or retain information. If you listen on a radio, someone has to sit there and be ready to take notes. I do not think many do this. On the other hand, Mr. Mayor, because the fire department allegedly had access to the police system, they were able to search for calls based on keywords that interested them or piqued their curiosity, like rape or sexual assault. They were also able to go back and view a call multiple times, unlike a police call on a scanner. This would permit them to share this information with their friends. I wonder if these guys were able to view this information on their personal smartphones. The chief further stated that the firefighter who accessed the police report did so accidentally. He said the firefighter clicked on the wrong call to get the information for his EMS report. So it is apparent that there is no secret anymore. Firefighters were able to access non-EMS calls or fire calls. Also, he said this was reported 5 times by him. Mr. Mayor, according to the Criminal History Records Information Act, or CRIA, police information is supposed to be secure and only available on a need-to-know basis. Furthermore, Title 18, Section 5741, unlawful access to stored communications, makes it a crime to access information without authorization. And Title 18, Section 9183, provides for criminal penalties for these acts. The municipality also has a computer usage policy. The chief stated he was a Monroeville police officer for over 25 years. He was also a sergeant for many of those years. Mr. Mayor, I would think someone with that kind of experience would recognize a violation of CRIA And I would expect someone who has been an employee of this municipality for 25 years and a former member of council to recognize Monroeville's computer usage policy. The chief stated that something had been turned in 5 times by him. I assume that he was referring to having turned in 5 times the fact that the police reports were being displayed on fire department computers. Mr. Mayor, do you know who the chief told these 5 times?
Continue.
I would think that the chief would understand the home rule charter and the chain of command. I would think he should know that his communications as the de facto department head or as a councilman should have been with either the chief of police or the manager. Was the chief of police or the manager told? Is there a copy available of the correspondence? If the chief or the manager were told, why did they not stop the access to the police information to the firefighters?
Continue.
Why did someone not insist that this information stop coming to the fire department computers? In the same Times Express that had the infamous "Who cares" comment, the chief makes no mention of having tried to notify any municipal officials of his claim. I also went back and searched council minutes, and I see no mention that any fire chief notified council or the mayor of this ongoing problem. Also within the chief's comments, he said, back then, before all this, it was no big deal. Seriously? Having peeping toms and voyeuristic young men viewing rape information is no big deal? For as long as I can remember, police departments, the news media, and others have treated the identity of sexual assault victims with extra sensitivity, especially when the victim is a minor or a little girl. The chief further stated, suddenly it is a big deal. Really, Mr. Mayor? It is only recently that the specifics of a rape investigation are a big deal. Next, the chief stated that his fire company answers EMS calls to those same calls. So the person you are complaining about, meaning me, chances are goes in the ambulance to help those people. Here we go, Mr. Mayor, back to HIPAA. HIPAA makes it perfectly clear that just because you can access personal health information does not mean that you should. If the patient is not your patient, you should not be looking at their information. It is supposed to be a need-to-know basis. The chief made an emphatic and animated point that a typical police traffic stop, a police officer asks for and broadcasts a person's name, address, and date of birth, the make, model, color, and serial number of their vehicle. This is all true. However, by computerizing this information, it becomes searchable. The rumor is that thousands and thousands of records were available. Also, as stated above, when the information involves a sensitive subject, it is not routinely broadcast. It is not uncommon that if the person involved in a traffic stop is a VIP, like a family member of a councilman or the mayor, this information is not routinely broadcast over regular radio. So, Mr. Mayor, we have one member of council concerned about the cost of this investigation. Another member concerned about the bad words used by a member of council when she discovered the seriousness of the privacy breach, and another member that goes on the radio and calls the investigation a joke. Last week, against the advice of council, you stated that our attorney and you both declared this breach not a HIPAA violation. And now, and once again, one of our fire chiefs is calling this whole thing no big deal. Mr. Mayor, this is serious, it is a big deal, and it is not a joke. I wish those of you that are sworn to protect us would take it seriously, treat it as a big deal, and not as a joke. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to address this issue.
Well, first off, I have to respond since Mr. Yakem had his opportunity. And Chief, you can certainly come up and respond if you choose. But when I made my statement, it had nothing to do with the victim that Mr. Yakem refers to. It had to do with the original charge that got our former chief and other, I guess, some of the issues why he was demoted. Now, I know that was said that was without cause. We'll see about that. I'm not going to respond on the investigation by advice of Mr. Dice, as well as Bill Bresnahan. As I stated to you all earlier, when this is all said and done, I assure you, I'm not going to speak for anybody else on this council, but this mayor, your mayor, will put everything out. I will hold nothing back. It is your right. It is your money that paid for it. You have a right to all that access, in my opinion. The only time I will say there'd be a difference if I am told by the solicitor there are certain things that I have to negate from it, take away from it, I'll also address that to you as well. But in my opinion, there's no national secrets here. This is local government. This is not the federal government. Mr. Harvey, would you like to respond? Because I think that you certainly did. There was a lot of misstatements put forth on your statement last week, in my opinion.
Ron Harvey, resident of Monroeville, Fire Chief of Monroeville Number 5 Fire Company. I'll just keep this short because this could go on forever.
And I don't want to do that.
I'm just saying that, first of all, I don't know whoever
Address
said.
me, Ron.
I don't know whoever said that the person on the rape report was a young child. How does he know that?
Good question.
That's a very good question.
No, I never said that. He's saying it. I just don't know where he's getting his information. Secondly, I simply, I was trying to keep it, no names inclusive. Now he wants to know who we reported it to. Do you want me to tell you that?
You have every right to do as you choose.
Steve Pasquarelli. I was there on 3 occasions when he came over and attempted to fix the computer so it wouldn't show police calls anymore.
Ron, can I interrupt you just for 1 second? Do you recall, I just want to make sure that Mr. Ye can recall on Thursday, I asked the same question. If I remember, and I know my memory's not real great, somewhere along the way, we had asked that Mr. Daly, this private investigator, talk to you.
No.
Has he ever talked to you?
No.
Has he talked to any of the fire chiefs?
As far as the last chiefs meeting goes, which was this past Wednesday, no. They did not.
Folks, we really got to not talk about this investigation, but just go back to what you wanted to say, Ron, that
all I'm trying to say is that there was attempts to make, the attempts that I was taught that if there's a problem with the computer, who to call. I called that person, okay? I was there. There was no personal information on that screen. It was simply the call information that goes out over the radio. A rape, sexual assault, 1000 Main Street, and the car went, That's all that was on that screen. But nobody ever asked, I'm telling you. And I don't know where he's getting this child from because I don't even know if it was. Okay. Bottom line is that every attempt on those 5 occasions, there was an attempt to make those calls stop. And I have to tell you, there was a response. I'm not saying that. I'm saying Steve Pasquarelli came over to the fire hall and did whatever he does, and the calls, the only thing that showed up was EMS calls and fire calls. And down the road, they started popping up again. And I don't know what to tell you. I called him again. Okay? And I'm not saying it's Steve's fault at all. I don't know if there was a software glitch or...
I think at the end of the day...
Here's another thing, okay? Let's just do this. I don't have a problem with any resident making any statements they want. I really have a problem with council making any statements about this matter. Greg, you've said it before. Let's let the investigation conclude. Let's just have it done, and then I think there's an appropriate time for all this kind of discourse. If he wants to say anything he wants, that's up to him. Just remember, you're the ones that have to at some point, account for whatever happens here, so. Just, I know it's hard, but try to not...
No, and I agree with you on that, Bruce. I agree 100%. Ron, anything else you'd like to say?
No, I mean, that's the basic of it is, he's just responding to some facts that weren't true.
Very good, thank you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I will open up to the floor for any of you. This is your time to address council. Seeing none, we'll close that proportion of the meeting. We'll move over to our reports of our officials. Bruce, do you have anything for us?
Not tonight.
Very good. Lynette, I know you have a couple of issues. If you would bring them forward, please.
Okay, the first item on my report is the presentation of the 2014 budget calendar. It is item P in your agenda packet, and it basically lays out the dates and deadlines of the 2014 budget. So I just wanted to present that to council.
Questions or comments on this item before you, council? I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Well, I would assume then the time frame would be 7 PM? We have dates.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Some of them do have, do we have times, is what I'm asking?
Yes, the meetings actually have dates beside them.
Yeah, dates and...
The times.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't see that on all of them, but these are just tasks that are beginning. I'm corrected, thanks.
Next item, Lynette, if you would.
The next item is the presentation of the 2014 to 2018 capital improvements budget. This is a working document that I wanted to hand out to council. We met with Susan Worksman, the finance director, and myself met with all of the department heads. They prepared their capitals for the next 5 years. So this is basically everything that they've requested, and I'm actually requesting a work session for council members and the staff to get together to basically set protocol, whittle away to get to the number that council would like to get to.
Questions or comments on this item before you? Lynette, if you would.
The next item is the 2013 real estate analysis and option. Basically, our shortfall option. If council would look at item number R in your agenda packet, there's an adding tape that goes down the left-hand side of the paperwork. This is the payments that we received from tax collector Fulkerson from March to July for a total of 5.607. And then if you look up at the top, there's a statement that says balance collectible. There's an arrow beside it for $253,217. That's the amount that's not collected to date by Mr. Fulkerson. So if you add what we've collected to what we still need to collect, we get 5.860. And if you subtract that from the amount that Manager Soka presented back to council back in December and January, the 6.098, we come short as of today's snapshot at $237,568.
If you would hold on for a second.
Sure.
Lynette. I have Mr. Fulkerson come and maybe go a little more in detail. There were some controversy on the issues that the numbers I presented for last night's meeting, and I'll get in more to that in my report.
I think she has some of the right numbers.
I hope so. It's your report.
You have 5,629,000 I have collected at the present time. Again, I have a report that says there is
5,000 or 5 million?
5,629,000.
I was going to say.
You have a report showing you have $253,000 still to be collected. You think I'm going to collect all that? I'm not that good.
Well-
I'm not 100% collections.
What
I
has been
never
our
anticipated or said that you were going to collect that amount.
Well, you put it on your thing, so it's not
I
going to be.
just said that is the amount of real estate money that is uncollected
And
by.
it will be uncollected at the end. Most likely, I will collect another $120,000 of that 253.
Another 100, I'm sorry, how much?
120.
Of the 253?
Yeah. First of all, I have $100,000 that I do not collect, which Susan will know that. So out of that 253, you'd have to take $100,000 off.
What?
That's basically your uncollected amount.
Yes, that's the uncollected.
Oh,
So
it's okay,
now,
it's all right.
now you're down to 150. Most likely, from here to December, I won't collect $150,000. Most likely, in the month of January and February, I'll collect additional $50,000. That is not part of your 2013 bill, which Susan can also adjust for that. So now you're down to $100,000. Of the 5.6 and $100,000 gives you 5.7, 5.779. Of that, you had a budget of $6,098,000. Let's make it $6,100,000. So you're about $320,000 short. Now, you have refunds at the present time.
Well, you didn't let me get that far.
Well, that
Mr.
doesn't matter, I'm
Fulkerson.
just giving $192,000. You have a budget of $65,000. That gives you $127,000 that you haven't accounted for from 2013. That gives you $446,000 that you haven't accounted for. I have at the present time $23,000 of additional refund for the month of August. That brings you up to $469,000. Basically, you're probably between $470,000 to $500,000 short this year. Any additional questions
On real estate.
on real estate?
What's unrealistic?
No, on
Real estate only.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry,
the
I
only thing
didn't
I'm
hear.
reporting. And I don't look for blame here. I don't really care the blame. I brought you in July. I didn't blame Lynette, I didn't blame anybody. As you can read on that report, I didn't blame it. I brought it to your attention because I knew it was a concern. And I'm not looking for blame. What I'm asking you to look and see what your problems are this year. I can't come up with the amount of money that I was supposed to for the budget because of problems, because of exonerations. So you're going to be $500,000 short. But you might be able to make it other places. I don't know that. I'm not privileged to that information. But right now, for real estate, you're short $500,000.
Pat, that was some of the issues I had when I asked for real numbers, because a budget's an estimate.
Yeah, it is.
And you can have, I mean, especially with things that occurred in certain places, you can have overestimated certain things and be able to make up. So what exactly shortfall do you have where it could be made
Yeah,
up somewhere else?
you can do
Before
that.
we're,
You're
we're
right,
screaming
Diane.
fire in a theater, I think we need to have actual numbers before we make decisions, which is exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to let you know in July what my problems were. I didn't have privilege to everything else, and I don't have privilege to everything else. I'm letting you know that the real estate is going to be short $500,000. I think that's my obligation to you. And I thought I did it, and I didn't ask anybody to blame for it. So, thank you.
I just want to get that straight on the record, but go ahead, Lynette. You wanted to say a few more words.
Well, I was just saying, as the snapshot that we look at today, we're $237,568 in real estate as today's snapshot. Understanding that Mr. Fulkerson made some valid points. If you flip to the next page, this is our real estate tax refunds, and as to date, $127,797. So if you add those two numbers together, that's approximately $360,000 we're short to date at the snapshot.
And then obviously taking what Mr. Fulkerson said, that's quite a bit more, obviously.
As looking at today's snapshot,
Right.
that's where we are. And
Question?
then
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I
the
apologize.
last page is just options for councils to consider.
We'll get into that in budget.
Yep.
Questions or comments on any of the three items before you, council? Obviously, on the budget items and on the real estate stuff, I would hope that we will work on that in our budget meetings.
Yes, Mayor. No, just a comment, because I had asked Mr. Dice if he would once again report on his update, and he has, on the state of assessments of the assessments, as I understand it from your report, your update, is that residential appeals really are of the dwindling variety, and the unknown, more unknown, possibly more, it would certainly affect, is the commercial.
Correct.
And for instance, the property known as the Monroeville Mall. Monroeville Mall, over the period of 20, 30 years, has had a variety of stores in there that, if you took them at face value and your receipts and what type of merchandise, it had a high yield. And as that changed over the years and the stores changed with it, then there possibly would be a reason on their part to challenge and say, well, we feel our property isn't worth as much, therefore we want to pay less. Is that a fairly good
That's a
understanding?
general, that's a broad statement, but that's correct.
Okay. All right. So that's really more of the unknown, is the commercial end of it.
That, you're correct.
Okay.
Mayor, I have
Okay.
a question. Did we get a number of where we are to date based on everything like I spoke of, where we may have over budgeted, where maybe some of the a shortfall could have been made up, where we are actually in real date numbers?
Don't you think that we would go through that during our budget process?
I'm talking for this year.
Oh, well, we still have to sit down and talk about it.
Well, did we get anything like that of where we are? Because, I mean, I was looking at the tax revenue and, I mean, maybe even how I read it, I mean, I'm just looking from what we get provided. In the budget, it would be anticipated they would collect 2.5 million. Year-to-date, they've already collected over 3.
You're talking about EIT.
Mercantile.
Is that mercantile? Are you talking?
Mercantile.
Okay.
Tax.
So,
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure.
between that and if I look under, and I'm just reading what's given. I mean, I'm reading it, what was put in the 2013 budget also for business privilege tax was 3 million. Year-to-date, which is right now, which is what we're August, 3.143. Between the two, you have 643,000 collected. And this is in August. We're talking, this is for a full year, over collected more than what was anticipated. So is that going to make up some of the shortfall?
I would certainly hope so. And that has to do with the new, everything with the tax.
So before we start, saying we're not going to make payroll next month, or shouldn't we get a fair assessment of what, because we've already, 643 already, we've collected more than we thought we would in 2 other areas.
Right. Added together, actually, Councilwoman Allison, that's almost $700,000 we've over-collected in those 2
And
areas.
that's not even
which-
what I'm talking about, even in the budget that could be added to that. So before we, that's where I would come up, I'd like to see where we're at, because right here, that makes up what Mr. Fulkerson was talking about.
Well, the good news is, that's why I think we certainly should need to sit down and talk about our 2013, because if we have good numbers like that.
This was in our packet every
Yeah.
month, it's there to look at.
Well, what I'm saying is, yeah, but who knew how big the other numbers were? He was.
Okay, sure, absolutely. Then you go to your form here, and you kind of go, okay, it looks like we've made it up somewhere else. And
But
we
we're
don't.
just getting
So-
those numbers now, is what I'm saying, why I thought we should meet.
These are updated numbers. This tax revenue, this is slightly different. In fact, this is a lot easier to read the past couple of months in the way that it sections out real estate, earned income, mercantile, business privilege. You can look year-to-date a year ago and you see how much farther ahead we are, even though we were farther behind last year. So it's easy to see. It's easy to see where you might be making it up, but it's sort of like a horse race, You're coming up from the rear, and maybe that's going to carry you through. But it is a month-to-month figure that we can have in front of us in our work session.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, I'm just glad we're going to be meeting and get that moving. Anything else on the 3 items that Lynette presented? Seeing none, Clarence, we'll go to you for your report.
I don't have anything.
Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to speak on the comments made by Mr. Yeckham at last Thursday's Citizens Night meeting. Mr. Yeckham, during your comments, you made many accusations and assumptions. You stated you were disturbed at my actions and spoke of an executive session as well as the alleged HIPAA violations. I'd task you to speak to all 7 council members in regards to the facts on what actually occurred at the executive session, not just the few that you've spoken to. Knowledge of the alleged HIPAA violation investigation even seems to be above the supposed leaks to the press. You mentioned that I have a daughter and that somehow I condone the violation of the privacy rights of a rape victim. Your allegations disgust me. I have a wife, 2 daughters, 2 granddaughters, and a 3rd granddaughter on the way. As you can see, I'm surrounded by women, girls. My oldest daughter is a technical sergeant in the Air Force and an emergency room nurse who deals with trauma and patient privacy daily. My youngest is a special ed teacher and deals with maintaining the privacy of her students as well. I personally worked for the public for 32 years now and am very understanding of the importance of confidentiality. In closing, I was elected to this office and I'm fair game, not my family. Even in politics, there are lines which should not be crossed. I kindly ask that during your speeches and the little games you play on Facebook, that you refrain from any mention of my family. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. Diane.
First of all, I would like to say happy anniversary to my husband, who is my family as well, and wasn't treated as fair game by our mayor. I'd like to bring that up. So apparently, I think everyone should be treated the same, and I agree with Mr. Duncan. The family's off limits. I would like to go over the Monroeville Convention Center schedule, and the Showmasters Gun Show will be coming on Saturday, August 17th and 18th. Admission's $9. Children under 12 are free. The Original Sewing and Quilt Expo, dates August 22nd through 24th. Admission's $8. Online or $10 at the door. Children under 12 are free. And the Willie Ski Sail Expo will be coming August 31st through September 2nd, and admission is free. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Jim? Yes, on a lighter note. First off, I certainly agree with Mr. Duncan and everything he had to say. I agree wholeheartedly. You know, at last week's work session, I wanted to get a copy of the transcript from the work session. Then I remembered I can't read, according to somebody anyway. So I went over to Mr. Duncan's house, and I forgot he can't read either. So I got a copy of the tape. You know, I don't like to address council unless I feel it's important. Well, I do think it's a little bit important because of the comments of our manager on Thursday. Last Thursday, our manager referred to the police department as my police department. Let's get something straight. Monroeville Police Department belongs to the residents of Monroeville, and I find it offensive that the manager would make such a statement. The end. Thank you.
Lois.
Yes, Mayor. I have a couple of announcements on the senior center, but I wanted to ask a question because when I was out driving, I'm seeing that the paving program is going on, and I noticed that Ivanhoe was paved, and it wasn't originally on. I'm glad that it's paved, but because of the shape that it was in. Was it added to the paving schedule because of conditions that allowed us to add an extra road?
When the paving bids came back and the bid prices were applied to the program, there was excess money. I spoke with the manager. We came up with the next grouping of candidates. Ivanhoe Drive was one of those. Valley View Drive was one of those. I don't remember the other ones, but they were added to the program.
And I'm, as I said, happy that that occurred. I do recall, because it was September of 2009, when UPMC was discussing the project, I had, my question was, would they assure that there wasn't heavy travel on it? And I'm just wondering, I know these bids came in under, but I'm wondering if anyone reached out to them to cover some of that, that would have been, in my view, a community project.
Paul, do you mind if I answer? We were trying, when we were dealing with them giving money, and I don't want to say the bad word, but we're not allowed to say around them, when they wanted to fund community projects, we asked them for this year because there's issues with their tax exempt status. They don't want to get into any, set rates, but they would fund some community benefits, and we asked if they would because that road was heavily traveled by them. A lot of the deterioration was caused by the construction as well, and they said that the road, giving money to the roads program would not be part of what they considered a community benefit, but it was attempted by the manager and myself to try to do that because.
So you reached out to them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. I see that as a great benefit to all those people who live there.
And if we didn't, I believe, Paul, if you would correct me if I'm wrong, but if that road was not done this year, to wait another year would need a lot more than just repaving, but actually some reconstruction. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
So to get it done this year for a lesser amount would have cost more next year. So.
Yeah, and that's why, it would have probably appeared on the schedule because Pacer, you're going to evaluate it and put objective numbers, and it probably deteriorated far faster than it, I'm sure it did, because I saw all the traffic and I saw the deterioration. So anyway, that's all. I guess that there's nothing more to be said on that. Thank you for trying to get them to do that, because I thought it would have been a community project. I do want to mention a couple of things. One of them, we've had some programs that have come and gone. The Senior Center's July, August newsletter is still chock full of things on there, and their new September, October calendar will be coming out soon. I wanted to mention the senior luncheon is coming up Monday, August 26th at noon. The luncheon choices have been absolutely wonderful. They get a lot of praise for putting on a really good hot lunch. So the choice this Monday, August 26th at noon is you choose either barbecue pork on a Kaiser bun or chicken salad croissant sandwich, both served with macaroni salad and fruit salad, vanilla ice cream, cone, coffee, hot tea. There is a ticket deadline, however, so please let the Senior Center know by Wednesday, August 21st. The trips and tours that are part of functions, they're going every month. They've had casino trips and, Shakerwood Festival that just happened. Some other ones that are coming up in September, October. In September, Lion King at the Benedum Theater. And this is a whole package, $170 per person, but it includes the orchestra seating, the dinner on the Grand Concourse, and bus driver trip. You can't beat it. October, they're going to have a chocolate and apples tour. That's Sunday, October 6th. And also the 17th of October, Meadows Casino trip. There's casino lovers, and they fill that very quickly. Again, check your senior schedule and come by the Senior Center for total fitness. Everything there for you and for a very reasonable price. One more thing I wanted to mention on the order of what is going to be, I don't know how many people may buy a Time magazine. I plan on buying it. I don't generally. The reason I'm going to get this next issue that's coming out is the trouble with colony collapse and beehives, and that's of particular interest to me, not only because of the food garden. We've got this garden, we're well over 117 pounds now that we're donating, but the rate of honeybees, the rate of pollination, and we're down 40% nationwide, and that's a real concern. You might be keeping track of other municipalities, Forest Hills, the more recent one, that are developing bee ordinances, and I am as well, and would like to present that next month. Meanwhile, it's an issue that I hope people might maybe pick that issue up when they see it at the newsstands. That's Time magazine coming out. And that's all I have.
Nick?
Yes, Mayor, I would just like to certainly take Mr. Dice's advice as far as commenting on the alleged HIPAA complaint and the HIPAA investigation by Health and Human Services, but I want to ensure the residents that I do take this investigation extremely seriously, from the initial complaint in August to the present day, and everything that has transpired from that point forward. That is not only the alleged violation, all the actions that have occurred, personnel actions, how we hired our investigative team and attorney team, all facets of this investigation. I take it extremely seriously, but I will reserve full explanation once we do hear back from Health and Human Services. And for the record, regarding the report that was handed out, I do want to state on the record that I have not shared this report with anyone. I have not discussed it with anyone. It has been in my possession at all times. It has not gone anywhere. I know there was talk that certain residents may have had it, the paper may have had it, but for the record, me personally, my copy did not go anywhere other than my possession. That's all I have for this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Byrne?
Yes, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. I'm glad that the manager has put together a schedule that we're going to be working on for the new budget. It's that simple. Thanks for coming. Mr. Mayor, I'll just turn it over to you.
Very good. Just a couple of real quick items. One that I touched on last Thursday, and that has to do with our ward initiative that Mr. Schufo and I are working on, where we will ask some of you to volunteer to assist us in cleaning up our neighborhoods, if you will. As I stated Thursday, there's a lot more to this than both Mark and I anticipated. So we are doing a lot of our legwork right now, and many of you have volunteered. We're still looking for more volunteers
What's the
from
phone
you.
number?
My phone number is 412.
No, the phone number for the volunteers.
That's what I'm going to give you, 412-856-3300. Joe, can you throw that up on the screen? Is that possible, my office number?
I can't get it in the computer.
Oh, that's okay, no problem. We'll get that out there, but again, you can certainly go on our website and get my contact information, or Mark Shufo's, and we will certainly welcome your volunteerism. Secondly and lastly, one more, and I do want to compliment Steve on his thoughts tonight on that whole issue that he brought up, and I don't want to even go any further into that, but thank you, Steve, for that, because I totally agree. Lastly, I talked about the issue of looking at our home rule charter, and I'm going to sing this tune to you as long as I sit here as mayor. It was done originally in the early 70s, if you remember. And I'm going to be very blunt with all of you. I think if you look at and read it from page to page, cover to cover, I should say, there certainly needs to be some changes to it. It's a big undertaking. As a matter of fact, I might even far as go say maybe we should even put it on the ballot for next year and maybe get rid of the whole thing, go back to the borough code. Now, why do you say the borough code? That would give us time, if you all as residents would want to choose, to redo another home rule charter. Just so you know, going to the borough code puts me in a much lesser position than I sit now. If I am fortunate enough to get your votes this November, again, I will be pushing that. It is not about me, not about anybody up here. This is a joint effort. This means you, our residents, as well as this council, as well as the school district too, because I see some elected officials from the school district or newly elected ones coming in, as well as some current. We all need to work this together. We all have serious issues. In my opinion, this home rule charter and the current state has been abused. And that's how I see that. I think it's time for some major changes. Even if we scrap the whole thing and go back to the borough code, just for a year till we can all put a new borough code together, or a home rule charter rather, or whatever you choose. But it's your call. And if we do that, I will be asking some of you to join me on that endeavor as well. I take this role very seriously. I know all of you want us to do that. I believe, hopefully, everybody sitting up here and the new council coming in January have the same thoughts. We are at a crossroads in Monroeville. We either make the right decisions, forgive my language, or we're going to go to hell in a handbasket. It is certainly up to all of us. My only power I have is you, the residents. That's my real power. I would hope this council, as well as a new council coming in, feels exactly the same way. It's about us. This is our time. Not mine, not yours. It's all of us. Please consider what I said. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.